Okay. The reason I want to amend the agenda is I want to recall and redo the portion of the meeting that we had on Monday, June 15th, 2020, to the portion where I was removed by the host, Mark Kimball, and not allowed to return to the Zoom Board of Education meeting. I couldn't hear properly. I haven't been given access to review that meeting, and the meeting notes that I had seen was incorrect, at least on one of the votes. So I want to recall only the portion where I was removed from the meeting and was not allowed back in.
Madam President?
Yes, Ms. Castle.
Is there even, maybe Mr. Abdulahad can answer this, is there even a vehicle or a way to even do that?
Repeat what you're trying to do, Beth.
So I want to recall and redo the portion of the meeting on Monday, June 15th, 2020, to the portion where I was removed by the host, Mark Kimball, and not allowed to return to the Zoom Board of Education meeting. I couldn't hear the meeting properly. I haven't been given access to review that meeting, and the meeting notes that I had seen was incorrect, at least on one of the votes.
If you allow me time to investigate this, like contact MASB to see how, I don't know, and I don't want to give you misinformation, but if you give me time, first thing tomorrow morning, we could call MASB to see what our options are, and then I could get more information from you on exactly what portion, and then I could return and share the information.
Okay, you would want to speak to Rod Green. He did our training for us.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So can I ask if you could just hold on to that motion until I get more information, or do you guys have to vote on it already?
Well, I would like to vote on it, and I would like to vote on it, but the answer is going to be yes, we can do that. But I mean,
go ahead.
Miss Vice President, Beth,
Yes.
have you talked to Brad Green about this?
I have talked to MASB about it, yes.
And what did they tell you?
They said that we can recall a portion of any meeting that we want to.
And what does that mean exactly, Beth? Can you help educate us?
I just want to recall the portion where I was kicked out of the board meeting and not allowed back in by the host, which at that time.
You want to recall it, you mean we would actually go to those items where you were not part of it and then redo the meeting? What if we get a different result? Possibility that we'd have a different result?
We're just redoing it.
I mean, you voted on every issue, Beth.
But I couldn't hear on everything. So I was getting portions of it. And when I seen the notes on the meeting, there was something that it said that Bill voted yes on, and I was pretty sure I voted, and it said I voted yes, and Bill voted, or that it was wrong.
Yeah, it was wrong. We have to fix that one with Bill.
Right. So I'm concerned that I really did not hear all of the meeting. So as a board member, everyone knew I could not hear, and I was constantly saying I cannot hear the meeting. So I don't actually know what the items were that we voted on, because I couldn't see it, hear it. And when I looked at the notes are so slim, there's hardly anything in it, and I have not been given access to look at the video, which I have emailed Sarah telling her that I needed access to it so I can see if there was something I was going to miss. I didn't get a response. I called MASB, and they said you can recall any portion of it that I was left out of the meeting, because I was actually left out of our board meeting.
Madam President?
Yes, Ms. Castle.
Beth, I agree with what Angel was putting forth to give him time to investigate. How do you feel about that?
Well, I'm concerned that we're not going to come back to this discussion, which I want all of you to know that if it were you that were kicked out of the meeting by the board president, I would be voting with you to have that portion redone because I am still part of this board.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think what all we're saying is let Angel, I guess, Angel, would you bring it back to the board and say what date we would
Yeah,
revisit? Maybe the next meeting, the July meeting, the first
July 8th, July 8th, I could go back and just look at all the minutes, because I did see one with Bill, and I would sit there with Sarah Mueller. We'll go through the stuff, go through the minutes, and then I will send you an email with the report, and then we could add it to the July 8th agenda. We could just put it on the agenda, what we find.
Put what on the agenda?
Whatever things that we find incorrectly that you want to redo. So it was if you were forming a committee or you took a vote that you want to retake a vote on, then I could look at where the error was and go from there.
But that's what I'm saying. There's that whole portion where I was removed from the board meeting that I could not hear everything.
Okay. But weren't you doing like FaceTime with me and I'll like watch it showing the screen?
I was, and I could hear some and I couldn't hear some. And I was telling everyone I couldn't hear some and I could hear some. And then I couldn't hear everybody speaking. So that's the other thing. I couldn't be part of a discussion because I couldn't hear everybody.
Can I ask? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Deborah. I'm sorry.
I'm just sitting here thinking about Angel getting a hold of whatever.
MASB.
Thank you very much. This is all so confusing to me right now.
Yeah.
I would think that this would be the same as if we can't redo a meeting. If she was anyone got ejected from a meeting,
Right.
we couldn't redo the meeting. It's the same thing as being physically ejected from a physical meeting than to be ejected from a video.
When someone is rejected from a meeting, that's because they were taken out by police or they were disruptive in a meeting. Our host kicked me and only me out of a meeting and would not let me back in. And Angel knew it at the time because I was sending him screenshots of exactly what was happening.
I think though, I think Beth, I think in Mr. Kimball's defense, he was trying to act so quickly to try to kick all the nonsense out. I think he was acting so fast. He was just because I was shocked, so I could only imagine.
But
you so I don't think
you all do understand, given past history, I was the only board member kicked out, removed, and not let back in.
Can I make a suggestion?
Beth,
the only one. I want you all to hear those words. I was the only one kicked out of the board meeting.
Okay, I'm going to say one thing, and then Mr. Holcomb has the floor.
Well, I wanted it also at the same time as you, but I'll let Mark go ahead. But just don't forget.
No, go ahead, Mr. Pittman.
No, please.
I just want to say I do not believe that Mr. Kimball did that intentionally. I don't think that he did that on purpose. That's my opinion. Mr. Pittman, go ahead, and then Mr. Holcomb, you can be
okay. Is it all right, Mark, if I go first?
Yes.
You okay with that? All right. So I don't think the point really is, if you think about it, whether he did it on purpose or not. I don't think that's relevant. The fact is that she was kicked out, right? Okay.
Right.
And the other thing that could have probably answered all this is, where's the video? I mean, we should have that up so that she could have reviewed it. She said it's been a couple weeks. This would not even be a discussion if the video was available online or if it was sent to her.
Mr. Pittman, this is Madam President. Can I say something to Bill?
Okay, please? Mr. Abdul-Had, hang on, Miss Barb.
Yeah.
I think Mr. Abdul-Had can answer that for Mr. Pittman.
There you go.
The video.
We can. There was nudity and all kinds of scenery. So
But you can edit that out, can't you, Angel?
No.
We have
Yes, we can.
You can't edit it out. And
but if you did
we weren't able. We'll look at. We weren't able to. So we'll try to look at it. There was a lot of.
But I should still have been given the chance to come into the office to
Yeah.
view the portion that I have missed. And this would not have come to this, really,
Beth-
honestly. This would not be a discussion.
Miss
But
Scott,
Beth-
did you see that nudity or whatever? I didn't.
I
But-
did.
Okay,
I
yeah,
did.
and I'm
I
just
did
asking, if you saw it once, if you had to see it again, if you saw that privately, you'd be all right, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I wanted to make sure,
Bill.
I wanted to make sure that whatever I missed, yes, I seen that for a split second, but like I said, I was the only board member removed and not let back in. So,
Beth-
so we can put this to a stop if I can actually come in and view the portion I missed. So we can skip past the nudity. I just want to see the portion that I missed and we can come back to this.
Madam
I don't know
President,
what the problem is as a board member, why we wouldn't want me to see that portion that I missed.
Madam President.
Hang on, Mr. Holcomb is next, Barbara. Hang on, can you hang on one moment?
I understand what Beth's saying. Yeah, she should be able to see it. I agree. Or can we table this until Angel
That's
talks to Rod Green and find out where we are, and then he can call Beth into the office and let her watch it, and then we can move on to the next board meeting, not tomorrow, but the next one.
I mean, that sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Can I have a one question then I'll let you, Barb. Angel or Sarah, maybe you can answer. Is the video still available for Ms. Scott to view?
We
muted.
don't know. We don't know if we could recover. We were attempting to recover, but we'll let me try to recover one more time, and I'll give a report. We attempted a recovery once before, we couldn't. And then the Zoom, like the one where I'm recording right now, when Sandy was recording, when all that stuff happened, she also lost her Zoom recording. So like as you could see, there's a little dot by my name under participants. It shows I'm recording.
Okay.
We had lost that Zoom because Sandy was the host, and she I think she got disconnected. So we couldn't reference anything either. So let me check with MASB with all our options, and then I'll definitely have a report for you before July 8th to see how you want to handle it.
Sandy
Okay,
was not,
Ms. Castle,
Yeah.
did you want to speak?
Yes, I just wanted to make one comment, just in case there was someone that didn't know why Beth was not able to come back into the meeting. Is my understanding is once you drop someone, you cannot bring them back into the meeting. Is that correct, Angel?
Yeah, she wasn't allowed to come back in because when
Well,
you
it
kick
wasn't a
someone
matter of
out.
wasn't allowed. I mean, Mark would have let her back in. He just wasn't
No.
did the mechanics to do it.
Yeah,
Correct?
Zoom wouldn't let you. When you kick someone out in Zoom, she was trying. The best thing that we had was we did FaceTime. She couldn't hear, but let me find out for you so we don't
Good.
carry on too long on
No,
the
we
same
support
topic,
it.
and I will give you
Beth,
more.
we're supporting you, Beth. We're not arguing it at all. We're supporting you, and I think Mr. Abdulhad can come back with a good solution for us.
well,
Okay.
I want to make this clear that Mark was the host and Sarah was videotaping the Zoom. It was not Sandy. It was Sarah.
Sarah was doing Facebook Live.
And recording too as well, wasn't she?
No, Sarah was not recording Zoom. Sandy was the host. Sandy
So
was the host.
I gotta unmute.
Ms. Thompson?
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay. Hey, what I want to know is, did nobody record the minutes of that meeting?
We have
They're
the
in-
minutes up, but there's some errors. Like there's an error where they have Bill voting no, and he voted yes. So we have to fix that. So we have to go back and read the minutes.
Okay.
But, and also the meeting, they're not detailed. So I wouldn't even be able to go back and see what everybody said. They're not detailed. So I'm clueless. The discussions, information, I'm being withheld information from a board meeting as a board member is what I'm getting across.
Madam President,
Yes.
I just have to make one comment, Beth. If that ever happens to any of us again, we probably shouldn't vote then on an item if we don't have all the information. That's just doesn't make sense to vote when you didn't have all the information.
We should have stopped the meeting. Like I said, over and over, we needed to stop that meeting until we could continue it when everyone was in as a board.
All right, hindsight is one thing. Angel, I think, like Debbie said, we should move along and turn this over to you. And Beth, we're in
So
support of what we want to do. We'll just see what happens with the
So-
research.
Someone make a motion then to table it until Angel can find out.
First, we have to follow through with,
You have to vote on this, and then if the vote fails or passes, if it fails, then you could table it, or you could also withdraw your motion, and you could also withdraw that if you wanted to.
okay, I will withdraw my amend to amend
Your
the
motion,
agenda, my
Okay.
motion, but I want to amend the agenda to have Angel get back to me tomorrow with whatever he finds out from MASB then. Because I don't want this dropped.
Can you give
know-
me 2 days, because I'm also preparing for the board meeting tomorrow.
Okay, so I don't care, the end of the week, Angel. I'm just
Okay.
saying, this
Yep.
board has a history of dropping things, and I do not want this dropped.
Okay, I will
So
get it
what
by
was
the
your motion? I'm sorry, Beth.
My
what was your
motion is
again?
my motion is to have Mr. Abdullahad contact MASB to see if we can retract the portion where I am left out of the meeting on Monday, June 15th, to see if we can retract that. I guess.
I'll present all the options that are given to me. I will send that in the email before end of the day
So now
Friday.
someone has to second it.
Do I
I'll
have a
second
second?
it.
Do I have a second? Mr. Holcomb?
Yes,
Thank you. Mr. Holcomb seconds it, Barbara.
Okay, then I'm going to move to a vote. Just give me a second. All right. Mr. Holcomb,
yes.
Mr. Pittman,
Yes.
Ms. Thompson,
Yes.
Ms. Scott,
Yes.
Mrs. Ott,
Yes.
and Barbara Castle, yes. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, is that,
Education approved the proposed board minutes from the June 15th, 2020 meeting, June 29th, 2020, and June 30th, 2020. I'll make the motion. Do I have a second?
Mr. President, I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Ott. Discussion?
I have discussions about this.
All right.
Once again, I'm going to bring this up, that I was removed from the June 15th meeting and was left out of the discussions and everything that was talked about. I contacted MASB attorney, they responded back, and I would like for Mr. Abdullahad to speak on that.
Well, the motion is to
Um,
approve these minutes or not.
Well, I can't, okay,
That
we're
would
in,
be something, that would be
we're in-
something totally separate.
no, we're in discussion about the meeting minutes, which is the June 15th meeting, which on Monday, the 29th, Mr. Abdullahad was supposed to get back to us on Friday, but we were still waiting from the attorney from MASB. So I don't see how we can vote on that until we discuss that.
Well, we can vote on it respectfully. You have a vote that you can vote no.
But this is the discussion time about those meeting minutes and the meeting.
That's correct.
That's what I'm doing. I've asked Mr. Abdullahad to speak on that.
can I speak on that, or what would you like me to do?
Go ahead.
So Brad from MASB, we went back and forth a few times. He suggested that I let Ms. Scott review the video. I said, we've attempted. The initial video on Zoom was a partial and it was deleted by our previous HR director. And then we attempted a recovery on our Facebook, one to assist the police in trying to help, but we couldn't in our police report. and we weren't successful in that recovery. So I notified Brad. I said, Brad, we don't have the video. And his last email to me was, so I said, I basically asked him, what can we do? Because we don't have, we don't have that. I said to him, I don't have the recording. The partial recording was deleted from our HR director for technical issues. The Facebook Live portion was taken down and removed for sexual content nudity from a few Zoom bombers. We do not have access to that piece of it as well. We attempted recovery and attempts to present it to the police department with our police report without any success. What other options do we have available to us? He said, this is Brad Banasic, Legal Counsel Director of Labor Relations from Michigan Association of School Boards. He said, revisiting the items that were discussed during Ms. Scott's absence appears to be a viable option. So now it's up to this board to decide what to do from there. So that is my report from that follow through.
Mr. Kimball,
Yes, Mrs.
I was just going through the minutes from that meeting as well, and every board action item Ms. Scott voted on. So I don't know why
It's
she has to hear. Pardon
It's
me?
correct. You're right. I did vote on it because Mr. Abdullahad was telling me what we were voting on, but I still did not get the discussion or things that people were saying about it. Why we were doing it, I was missing out on that. And that's the portion. I'm not asking to recall the votes. I'm asking to discuss and hear everyone's discussion on why we're doing things. I didn't get that. So I'm not asking to recall the votes. I'm asking as a board member to be able to be involved in the discussions on the things that were added when I was kicked out of the meeting and not let back in. That's what I'm asking.
How many things were there?
I have no clue.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mrs. Thompson.
can I ask
And
for
let
the,
me pause you right there, Mr. Holcomb. Anyone who wants to talk should be asked to be recognized. If we could do that, that would be great. Well, Mrs. Thompson, you have the floor.
do we not put discussion in the minute?
There should be.
I don't
Can I-
have. hard
I
copy,
didn't take the minutes.
and
So
I'm on my iPad, so I can't look.
Can I speak on that, Mr. President?
Ms. Scott, go ahead.
Ms. Thompson, I did try to go to the minutes. The minutes do not have the full discussions, and I pointed out 2 items where it said that I voted for it had my vote wrong and Mr. Pittman's votes wrong. So I pointed those things out on the vote because I wrote down what we were voting on, but I could not hear the discussions. And it's not, the notes are not detailed on the discussion. So Open Meetings Act requires, as a board member, I am allowed to have the discussion on those items. Why? For example, I didn't know why we were putting I didn't hear why we wanted to put the admin building up for appraisal. So those are the items, and I don't know exactly how many there are. Maybe Mr. Abdullahad can say 4 or 5 of them, but I just feel as a board member, it's my right to have those discussions. Not to revote, again, not to revote, to hear those discussions.
All right, then I would suggest, Ms. Scott, that you make a request via email and we'll add this to the next agenda. How's that?
I added it, we spoke on this on Monday, the 29th, and Mr. Abdullahad.
I've received no emails from you requesting this.
Okay,
Any request from a board member has to go to the board president.
okay, excuse me, board president. This was at a meeting that you were not at, which was Monday, the 29th. We voted to have Mr. Abdullahad contact MASB, and it was going to be,
Which he did.
Mr. Abdullahad was going to let us know on Friday, by Friday, and we were going to discuss it at the next meeting, which would be this meeting. And it was not on the agenda.
So I guess I recall that either we tabled it or you withdrew it for a later time, did we not, Ms. Scott?
We said that we would give you till Friday
Mhm,
to talk to MASB, and then
mhm.
would get back to us, and we would add it, I believe, to this meeting. We couldn't do it to the next day meeting because there was not enough time.
So are you okay with it being at this August 3rd board meeting? Because we would have to review our minutes. We would have to review all the votes to bring up the topics of discussion. Are you okay waiting
That's
2
correct.
weeks?
Make a request to me in writing and we'll add it to the agenda,
I shouldn't have
the
to
next
send.
meeting.
Mr. President,
That's the rules. Mr. Holcomb, go ahead.
what Beth is saying she did do at the last meeting. She did request that we talk about it at the next meeting, and we agreed to it or whatever. But how do we know where to start or what to talk about from where she got kicked out? How do we go find that?
Yeah, I have no idea either because Mr. Abdullah was holding his phone up there and I do recall her participation in the meeting. So I'm a little confused on that as well.
Okay, well, Mr. Abdullahad can tell you that himself, that I asked several times to stop the meeting. I said I cannot hear. He was repeating what we were voting on several times, and this is going to be the second meeting that I am fighting to hear the discussions from a meeting that I was removed from. Whoever was hosting the meeting, I was removed and not allowed back in. So yes, I took the vote. I'm not asking to recall the votes. I'm asking to have the discussions. It's just the discussions, nothing else but the discussions.
Mr. Holcomb, go ahead.
Do we know what them discussions are, Beth?
Well, I mean, looking at the notes, yes, I could pretty much figure it out.
Well,
Mr. Kimball?
once again, the motion in front of us is to approve the minutes or not. If you feel inclined to vote against them, that's fine. But if you make a written request in email for the very next meeting, I will add it to the agenda. That's how it works.
Excuse me, Board President. I'm going to say this again. You were not at the meeting that the board members at that time agreed to talk about it at this meeting. So I don't know why I have to be redundant to go through this. It's already been,
Well,
it's
because
going to be a month. It's going to, excuse me, Board President. Excuse me, it's been 1 month almost that I've been requesting this. I've gone out of my way to contact MASB. I've been discussing this. I don't know why I need to send an email to possibly have it refused when we've already voted on this.
I just told you. I just told you, if you send an email requesting it, I will add it to the agenda. There's 2 parts to the agenda. It's the superintendent puts the district's business on. All requests from board members goes to the board president. I've not seen a request for that yet. If you make a request, I will put it on for the next meeting. So the motion at hand right now is to approve the minutes from those 3 meetings. If you feel inclined, you can vote against this. It's perfectly reasonable. Anybody else?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mrs. Ott.
I mean, I would like to help Ms. Scott out as much as possible. We had 12 board action items to vote on that night, and she voted on them all. She did her board comments.
I get that. She's not claiming to undo the votes.
Right.
She's talking about the discussion, which in itself can be problematic unless everyone remembered every word for word they said, because we have no recorded record.
Okay. I was just, you know.
So perhaps between now and the next meeting, when it's put on the agenda, we have time to recall what was said and review the notes. So once again, we're at the motion of approving these minutes. Anyone else have discussion to that?
Mr. President,
Yes, Ms. Cass.
why don't we change the motion to approve the 29th and the 30th? And then I don't know what the right procedure would be, but omit the 15th for now and give Ms. Scott to send you that request.
Well, with all due respect on that, though, it's not going to change the outcome, and she's not trying to undo the votes. So
I know.
I don't see the point of that.
Of course.
Who else has any input on that? No? All right. Well, Ms. Scott, if you send me a request, it will be put on the next agenda. We will discuss it as much as anyone can remember. But if that's it, let's move on with the motion to approve the minutes.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to say a couple things. First thing is the June 15th meeting. The board president, per the training that he received and the whole board received on February 22nd, should have stopped the meeting immediately and not tried to continue by proxy for another board member to try to attend. Every board member is a representation of the public and is there for if the public can or cannot attend. When a board member gets booted, it is like not allowing a portion of the public to attend the meeting. When they cannot see and hear, and multiple board members, when you discussed at the last meeting, have confirmed that you knew Ms. Scott could not hear parts of the meeting. It was in anything that you motioned or voted on, any discussion is invalid per the Open Meetings Act and breaks the state law of Michigan. A public body holding a meeting electronically as provided under this order is encouraged to do so in a manner that effectuates as fully as possible the purposes of the OMA, okay? Which is fostering openness in government to enhance responsible decision-making. The rest of that meeting has to be reenacted. It is invalid. Doesn't matter if there was votes taken or anything. A member cannot attend by proxy.
I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda. I have 2 items that I would like to request to be voted on separately.
What are the 2 items?
Reenact June 15, 2020 board meeting and withdraw the appraisals from the agenda. Appraisals.
If you recall at the last meeting, I said no less than 3 times, if you send me an email as procedure in our bylaws, I would add it to the agenda. You did not send me an email asking to add that. But does someone have a second to her motion to amend the agenda?
I'll second both her motions.
Mr. Pittman, well, it's just to amend the agenda at this point.
Okay.
A discussion? Anybody have discussion? No? Sarah, let's do a roll call vote on amending the agenda.
Mr. Holcomb,
Yes.
Ms. Castle,
You're muted, Barb.
Sorry, I apologize. My vote is no.
Mr. Kimball,
No.
Mrs. Ott,
No.
Mr. Pittman,
Yes.
Ms. Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Thompson,
She muted.
Well, Ms. Thompson, you're muted if you could hear us.
My vote was no.
motion fails 4-3.
Mr. President, I just want to say one thing about this whole June 15th meeting, if I could, please. Yes. Am I mute? Am I on? All right.
Mr. Pittman has the floor. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, Mark, we've amended the agenda during meetings many times without having to send emails, and we actually did it tonight. We added motions without, I just think if we, if we can somehow try to not talk about this every meeting and let's just do what we have to do to get it over
Just
with.
request to put it on the agenda. That's a simple thing, and I don't understand why it's so difficult.
Well, I don't understand why
I
it's so
already assured
difficult.
her 3 times at the last meeting, if she requests it, I will put it on the agenda. It's that simple.
But it's
Go
not
back and-
difficult to just say, okay, you made the request in a meeting, it was voted on as a motion, and we haven't done it. Why does
it's a matter of procedure, and she's clinging to the procedure on this meeting, even though she voted on everything. So let's follow procedure. All right, anyone else?
Well, obviously, I'm sorry, Mr. President. So it must have been the last 4 board action items. I will try to go through my notes. I keep notes at every meeting to see if I have anything jotted down, if we do proceed with this next month or next meeting. Beth,
Well, anybody,
Ms.
anybody
Scott?
can make the request, so.
Ms. Scott, is it the last 4 board action items that you're
Yes.
listing?
Yes, I believe so. But
Okay.
excuse me, Board President, it does not state in our bylaws you have to email. I can make a motion as well. So I can make an emotion to
You make a request.
Excuse me, 1 second. Let me finish my point. I can make a motion to amend the agenda. The problem is when it comes to me, I rarely get to have things added to the item, especially something that we have already voted on June 29th, and you were not even there.
Well,
So I just want to make that point that,
I only have 1 vote in deciding whether to amend the agenda or not, so.
well, we know how that goes. So thank you.
All right, then we'll move on. The next item is the board discussion. And this reverts back to the June 15th meeting. The first one is the custodial change. Does anyone recall any of the discussion from that meeting? Since we no longer have the recording of it?
Mr. President, are you
Yes.
talking about the centralized,
No,
no?
this says custodial change. Whatever that is.
This was the centralizing, Ms. Ott's right. This was when
Yes.
you're revisiting the request from Ms. Scott.
Yes.
And one of the motions were to, was to centralize custodial supplies.
Right.
So this is what you're revisiting right now.
All right, does anyone have any recollection of what the discussion was? I don't. Anybody? No?
I can tell that it passed 7-0. That's what I have on my notes.
All right. The second item was the administration building, the
Excuse
appraisal.
me, Board President. Excuse me.
Yeah,
The notes also do not represent this. The June 15th meeting notes do not represent this information.
well, the
Just
notes
wanted
were
to-
taken by the same person that deleted the meeting, my understanding. If people don't remember what was said then, I don't understand how people can recall this conversation. What's your ideas on this? Ms. Scott?
Apparently, you have made it clear that there's nothing, it is what it is because you're not going to change it.
I'm
We're not
making it clear that I don't have recollection of this discussion at this meeting. I've
Then-
asked if anyone else does. Beyond
Then-
that, if they don't, I don't understand what we're supposed to do here.
Okay, per MASB, that it was illegal to continue the meeting. We broke my First Amendment right. So if nobody can remember the next 3 items, might as well skip it over and don't waste anybody else's time because conveniently, no one will remember it. So we can go on. You can skip the ones that we put on from the June 15th meeting. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes,
I have copies of my notes from that night, of my own personal notes.
Okay.
But I don't have,
Well-
I don't have any verbiage. I basically have that the motions all passed. There was no, marginal votes. It was 7-0, 6-1, 5-2, 6-1. I know Ms. Scott had issues with I remember her saying something about wondering if a custodian was to run out of supplies, would they have to run to the junior high and stuff like that. That's the stuff I remember. And it was stated that each building would have their own supplies and that would just be a central housing there. That's what I remember from that.
Ms. Ott is clear. That is what I said. my point of this is that I was not involved in the discussion. I couldn't hear anyone's discussion.
But
I could not
yeah,
hear.
but yet you voted though.
Angel repeated what was being said for the vote. So my point is, I still did not hear the discussion. So like I said, there's no sense in wasting everyone's time. No one's really going to remember apparently. So why anything from the
Well,
June 5th meeting?
Well, we're,
Excuse me, board president. If no one remembers, let's just skip through the June 15th. I'm just stating that that my First Amendment was violated when I was removed from that meeting and not let back in. We should have stopped the meeting. So we can go on to the Board of Actions. That's fine.
well, now that would require amending the agenda. We're not going to do that. B is the administrative building appraisal. Now, I do recall some discussion on this. And originally, when we considered this, it was because the state had notified us, and Mr. Abdulahad will back me up on this, that we were to cut our budget by 25%. And at the time, it was my suggestion we get this building appraised to know how much it's worth in case we had to make some deep cuts, including this building that we don't need. That's what I recall from this discussion. And then when it came back on the agenda with that problem past us, the 25% cut, we decided not to appraise that building and spend the money on it. That's what I recall from that one. Does anyone else recall anything from the administrative building appraisal?
Mr.
Anybody?
Kimball, just one thing.
Yes.
That 25% is not past us yet because the Michigan legislature has not decided how much they're going to cut from the state aid. So it could still be drastic still. So even though they've given us some CARES dollars, they've not actually decided how much they're going to allocate per people. So it could still be there.
Okay, but
looming.
that's next year's budget, is it not?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Anyone else recall anything from that discussion that they want to share? No?
Mr. President, I believe we were all in agreement that we were not going to waste the money to have it appraised.
At that point in time, yes, we dropped
Yes.
it. All right. C was form a committee for evaluation of retail sale of Edison Elementary School. It was revisited June 15th. Now, the purpose of this committee was to seek out commercial brokers because the negotiations with Keys had stalled. And as we know now, we have a letter of intent from them. And further down the agenda, we're dissolving that board. And for Ms. Lewison inquired about this, this committee has never met. Anyone else have anything on that particular item from the discussion that they want to talk about? All right, then D was additional background checks, was revisited on June 15th, 2020, which we voted on. And I do recall stating that according to law, we have to ensure that all of our employees are safe, our children are safe. And I do know you voted against this, Ms. Scott. And in your closing comments, you said how disgusted you were with board members that voted for this. That's what I recall from that motion. Anyone else?
Yes, I have something. You're
Go
right.
ahead.
I did say that. And again, there's no reason to discuss it. You've already done it. So really, there's no need to talk about it.
Well, it's on the agenda. I can't just skip things over. And I want to point out too that those background checks, Mr. Abdullah had to verify, cost us zero, not a dime. Not a dime. And we're going to cover that in the human resource report.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Pittman.
but the only thing I think I recall from that conversation at that time was that it was going to cost. It did end up costing zero, but there was a cost
We
at the
were
time it was
unsure.
discussed.
Yeah, we were unsure. We were quoted $10 a piece,
Right,
and it turned out to be zero.
right.
I still think $10 a piece to ensure the safety of our employees, our staff, and our children are well worth it.
I agree.
Well,
All
and
right.
you can understand why I would be disgusted because once again, from the administration office,
Actually, Ms. Scott, I don't understand that, and I don't want to have a discussion. I don't understand how you'd be disgusted with the safety of the
Well,
children
because-
complying with the law, because there was some result from this.
Mr.
And
President,
we'll get into that in the HR report.
Mr. President, you asked me not to interrupt you, so please don't interrupt me. The reason I said that I was discussing we were wasting money on something that our front administration office said was going to cost $10, but it had already been done, and Mr. Abdullahad did not step in and say that it was anything different. So yes,
Well, that administrator that was assuring us
I
of that
wasn't finished, Board President. I'm
was
sorry.
wrong.
Okay, I wasn't finished, okay?
Go
So
ahead.
that's the reason why I was discussing that we would waste money, because once again, we were getting wrong information from the administration officers or from the administration building. Thank you.